WK-740 is the summary of performance, or some people know it as the SOP. And this form is it's the summary of a student's high school performance, kind of the end of the IEP, to document what it is that the student was receiving and what they need going forward. So if you look here, it will automatically take the information from the demographics screen and fill this out for you. So student name, date of birth, address, city, state, and zip, those things are all pulled from the demographics page. So if you see something there that's missing, make sure you go to your demographics page and complete that. And when you come back, it'll be here too. The ones that have the blanks here that you type in, these are ones that you have to actually enter. So what is the graduation year, or it says exit, because some students simply exit the program. And then two new things that we've added is one of them is a student's email address. So we can try to collect that student's personal email address prior to them leaving. So when we send out surveys after graduation, we have the most accurate email or most recent email that was not their school email. Another new field added was the student phone number. So same thing, if we want to have a current phone number of that student on file to be able to gather that information after graduation. Date of the most recent IEP, and then the IEP actual meeting dates. You may have had an amendment or something in there. This form was completed on blank and by whom. Okay, so this all information can be filled out based on who completed the form. So it gives you the purpose here of why we have a summary of performance. And basically, it's really important in assisting that student in the transition from high school to higher education or training and employment. So that current level of functioning is intended to help those post-secondary institutions consider accommodations. Okay, it doesn't imply that someone who got special ed in high school automatically qualifies for service in post-secondary or the employment setting, but it will provide documentation for them while they're making their consideration. So the yellow sections in WebKids are always prompts that remind you that there's an action to do or something to read. So in this case, it says click the new button to add each post-secondary goal. So we're going to click new. And in here, you would list what is the post-secondary goal from that student's IEP. If you wanted to do this as a pop-up form, you could do that and you could copy and paste it right from the IEP into here. Or you could, you could simply copy and paste it or take a picture or a screenshot and insert it that way. The reason that we have new and not all three listed is that not everybody has 3 post-secondary goals. They may only have the 2 required ones and not independent living. So you're going to put the post-secondary goals in here. If you make a record and decide, that you had 3 of them and then realize, okay, there was not an independent living goal, I don't need that one, then you can simply hit delete. Okay, so this will describe what those goals were for that student. If employment is the primary concern, then that student's going to fill in their top 3 job interests at the time of this form being completed. So there's a 1, 2, and 3 in there for you to prompt you to put the top 3. And then part 2 is the summary of performance, where you complete anything that was relevant to that student. So we've got academic achievement in the area of reading, and it breaks it down with basic reading, decoding, comprehension, fluency, etc. Present levels of academic performance. This may be something that you could copy and paste from the student's current IEP, or maybe that information is not as much as what you would want, and so you could add some more information. Whatever you need to include here in order to describe those present levels for that student's academic achievement. And then the other section here has the accommodations, modifications, or AT utilized when they were in high school and why they needed it. So having that rationale that will help the higher education institution or that student or person's employment consider whether or not an accommodation is necessary in that environment. Same thing for math, written language, There's a space to discuss learning skills, and it's got examples such as class participation, note-taking, keyboarding, homework, time management, etc. Okay, this is one of those things that's really important that I think people um, should spend quite a bit more time on, because those are the things that are in a job situation where they may need an accommodation, and you need to document that this is in fact what they were doing at this time, so that way they can be held for consideration in that other environment. Okay, below academic, we have the functional areas. Okay, so it follows the same format of how to fill that out with accommodations, modifications, and then the present levels being listed here. So the first section is the general ability and problem solving. Communication, because remember, functional doesn't necessarily mean only a student who's at functional abilities or adaptive abilities. We're talking about anything that's non-academic. So speech, communication, language, social skills, and behavior, all of those things are functional. So those are listed down here in the functional section, including the independent living skills, which is what most people think of when they consider functional. Environment, access, mobility, career and tech ed. And then we come to part 3 after the descriptions. These are the suggestions and recommendations that we are listing here to help that student meet their post-secondary goals. Okay, so here are the suggestions and recommendations for higher ed or career tech. You complete this here. Here's the recommendations and accommodations for employment and independent living, community participation, all the areas that are required to be on that summary of performance. If there's not an accommodation or something, let's say an independent living that you would address because they didn't have an independent living goal, you could simply type in NA, not applicable, or if you left it blank, it would not print anything. I would suggest putting NA or not applicable so someone doesn't think that you just simply skipped it. But if you leave it blank, it will not print and it will just move down to the next section here. This is a reminder here that the legal education decision maker should be given a copy of the document. So you're providing that document to the student, but it's possible that the student may not be 18 yet, and so you're giving that copy to the legal education decision maker, or perhaps that student is 18 to 21, but they have a legal guardian who makes their educational decisions. So just a reminder at the bottom as you complete the form to provide a copy of that also to whomever the legal education decision makers are. So that is a brief overview of the WK-740, which is the summary of performance. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us. You can email Amber or Brian. It's amber@webkids.org or brian@webkids.org. Thank you and have a great day.